I want to make a quick video that is actually going to be beneficial to everyone, especially beginners or people who don't have any exposure or experience to peptides, but they want to get into peptides. Like many of you who may not have familiarity with peptides, I started knowing absolutely nothing. I fell for a lot of the marketing and a lot of the bigger names out there that I won't name in this video, but I've said them in my longer form videos if you want to see them, of people being like, these are the best type of things. This will help you preserve muscle. It helps enhance or optimizes your testosterone by working alongside of it. Hormonal balancing, all the catchphrases, visceral fat, fat reducing, muscle building, better sleep, all the different things. You name something that an influencer or someone popular on YouTube or the social media has said, I was all for it. And what I've learned was everything is not just individualized, because that's too easy to say, but it's dose response, combinations and patterns, much like I say in chiropractic, but to how you respond to these peptide stacks or the days you take them, certainly the amounts that you do, how you reconstitute it, it all matters. Timing, diet, everything matters for you to get the most out of it, because I don't want to see anybody out there just waste their money. And that's one of the things. So I wanted to show you how I store my peptides, how I essentially use them, or like what you need at home to not be overwhelmed. So hopefully this does not overwhelm you. So here we go. First thing I want to show you is you just buy once on Amazon. And then when you're done with that once, you re-up the order. It's not that much money. You get your alcohol prep pads. You can overcomplicate it and have a big old alcohol thing out and use paper towels and cotton swabs and all this different stuff. But like, this is really not expensive. I couldn't even tell you what this sterile alcohol pad set costs, but it's very cheap. And here they are. You just rip them open and you clean before and clean after, and you can never clean enough. It's called not a sterile technique. Oh my God, aseptic technique. This is priority when you are injecting peptides. Never stick yourself with a needle without prepping the skin with alcohol before and after. Okay. The second thing that you need, and you don't need a lot of it, is a 3 ml syringe for reconstitution. Now, why do I say this? Because you might say, I only buy FDA approved. I only buy compounded pharmacies, 503A, 503B. I'm only buying those pharmacies. I don't need that. Well, if you're like me and eventually you get really confident and comfortable and want to try experimental peptides, you just got to have these so you can do it the right way. But what you need the most of are your 1 ml. This is a full 1 ml syringe. So you're injecting point whatever of an ml, very small fractions, which, 0.1 could be the same on your insulin syringe as 10 units, 0.2, 20 units. If I just said 10, 20 units, whatever it is. And, insulin syringes can be good for testosterone for a lot of reasons if you're doing things like split dosing, micro dosing, small dosing, as opposed to a big one-time dose. And if you've watched my content, I hate big one-time doses. But for small doses and measuring milligrams to ml, this is key. You get as many of these as you need, you rip them, you use them, you throw them away after. They're very inexpensive products. Another thing you're going to need are your 20 gauge needles for drawing the peptide out of the vial. And then you're going to need, and that's if you want maximum comfort, your 32 gauge half-inch needles. I don't know how well this will come in here. It's not that big a deal, but the kind of bluish green, 32 gauge half-inch needles. These are super comfortable. And if you really want a pro tip, which I'll give you right now for free, you get really good at pinching, and wiggling and pinch. And when you inject subcutaneous, it really doesn't hurt at all. What hurts early on is if you use too big a gauge needle and you just kind of grab the skin and you jam the thing in there. Remember, alcohol before, alcohol after. So those are really just the needles you need, and then a sharps container to which you better seal and do everybody out there some good to put them in the proper receptacles, dispose of them properly. Don't just be free, basing, throwing your needles in the garbage and making it somebody else's problem. Please be responsible. So that's what we call a sharps container. You can look that up if you want to know more about the regulations, but this is where we dispose all of our used syringe needles and the needles. That's where they go, and then it gets disposed of properly. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you is putting peptides in the refrigerator is what you do. There are some that don't need refrigeration, but for most peptides, almost all, refrigeration. I'm going to give you two kind of, I don't want to call them pro tips, but key tips that help me is When I get something reconstituted, or if I reconstitute something, or I get something from a compounded pharmacy, I get very small, or small amount of milligrams is maybe the better way to phrase it. I want my peptide to be concentrated, highly concentrated, meaning a small amount of BAC water, or the water solution to powder ratio. And the reason I'm saying it like this is I don't want something in my refrigerator for 3 months. I want it in there for a very short amount of time to get the doses I need over the course of a month or two, maybe maximum, some of them even less. And I want to go on to the next one. Why? Because I'm not in this to save as much money as possible. I don't want to be spending more than I need to, but I want to make sure I'm getting the most bang for my buck. And I want to make sure that I don't have a peptide sitting in my refrigerator going to waste, and neither do you. So the key is you store in the refrigerator in a dark place. When you have something at room temperature or you have it exposed to light, they will begin to degrade. They will lose their potency. We don't want that. Evidence, research, any way you want to phrase it is there. There are much better channels out there to learn from that if you're curious than me. Just know that I don't want to overcomplicate anything. So I'm going to take my peptides and I'm going to keep them, whether they're sealed or open, in this little tea box in a refrigerator in a cool, dark place. And then what I do, just for the sake of it, these are my powder only form peptides, if you want to call them experimental, that I have to reconstitute. And those are kept in a separate box. Also, again, refrigerated, stowed away. These are usually going to be, for me, guys, just from experience, 5, no more than 10 milligram vials. Because again, I want to have a high concentration. I want to use them fairly quickly between whatever me, my wife, or my family will use, so that we can go on to the next fresh vial. So that's what I use to store my peptides. That's what I use to reconstitute my peptides. That's what I use to inject my peptides. And I hope that this video helped.